Okay, welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, J.R. Stewart.
And I am your co-host, Tommy Duncan. It is April the 20th, I believe it is.
Yes,
Wednesday. If it is Wednesday night, it is.
it is definitely
Black
time for
Men
Black
Speak.
Men
Welcome,
Speak.
ladies and gentlemen. We are very excited to have everyone online with us today. We have a very exciting show, a very cerebral show, as usual, and we have two special guests that are going to light it up. We are not going to spend a lot of time on the preliminaries here, and I know neither of these folks are shy. They just have different styles. And we'll talk a little bit about our show for the night and why we're talking about this tonight after we have each of our special guests to introduce themselves. So what we will do is start with ladies first.
Well, when we
Miss
do this,
Jones,
Tommy, before we
Kendra
jump
Jones, if you
in,
could tell us who you are, where you're from, a little bit about what you do. Yes, sir.
I was going to say before we jump in, Tom,
What you got,
let's give
Jimmy?
a shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And if you are not a subscriber, please do. And please spread the word
Sure.
as we try to grow our channel. And hit the like button to help us out with the algorithm for YouTube. So go ahead, Tom, jump in.
Also, if we could, for those of you who don't already know, who may be newer, who just haven't done it before, make sure you join us via the chat line. Express yourself with questions, thoughts during the conversation tonight. Feel free also to use the phone number at the very bottom to call in if you'd like to ask any questions or express your thoughts briefly and respectfully to our guest this evening. So, in the midst of time, we're going to first have Ms. Kandra Jones to introduce herself, who she is, where she's from, and what she does. And then we will have our return guest, Brother Elam King, to do the same. Kandra, tell us about yourself.
Yes, so my name is Kandra Jones. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist associate. I currently reside in Fort Worth, Texas, but I'm originally from Lubbock, Texas. So they say I'm a country girl, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Good deal. All right, Elam.
What's going on, everybody? First of all, thank you guys for having me back on here. Listen, I'm not a cappella tonight, y'all. Okay, I'm not a cappella. I actually have a video. How about that? All right. And those of you who watched the previous episode, y'all know why that's funny. But Elam B. King, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a author, three-time author. I also am a relationship coach. I work with couples, married, pre-marriage, and dating as well. My mantra is, in order for us to improve our communities, we have to improve these families.
Yes.
And in order for us to improve these families, we need to take a look a little bit deeper into the two people that I speak towards in that space, which that are in the home. So I'm here just to share. I don't want to, I'm not putting any disclosures ahead of time. I'm just going to say what I got to say. Let's go.
There you go. And for those who are interested,
All right.
the contact information for Mr. King is in the description for this show. So you can go there and get his email address and phone number if you need to reach out to him.
But most importantly, folks, remember to use that chat line. Remember to make those calls as we get into the discussion. And Jimmy, let's get started here. So we had a conversation last week, and we deliberately did not have a podcast immediately after, the big slap, the Oscars event. Some people call it a debacle, whatever you want to say
Slap
it is.
heard around
But
the
we
world.
deliberately. Absolutely. I don't think there's anybody who living who did not hear the slap, even though they may not have been on site. And so we had our sidebar conversations about it, but we decided to hold off until all of the emotions toned down, the knee-jerk reactions kind of went under the water or under the bridge, so to speak, and decided we would have a thoughtful conversation about not just what happened there, but then also when we look at the bigger picture of celebrity and fame, how that shapes our community, how it shapes our thinking. When we look at a lot of these folks, whether they be entertainers in some frame of the imagination, an actor, basketball, football player, let's say a musician, a rapper,
Right.
anything. Let's kind of talk about what we saw. We'll start out, how that impacted us individually, what we saw, and then we'll let the conversation, as we usually do, grow organically from there. So, Elam, I'm going to start with you because I know you probably have had a ton of conversations about this, and I see your head shaking. We're going to start off with the event, the slap, and what your thoughts are, some of the conversations that you've had, and then we're just going to let it grow. And then, of course, Kandra, we're going to have you to fill in as well, because you work, both of y'all work on people's heads. Y'all just use it. Y'all have a different use case for how you work on people's heads. And so that was the reason why I intentionally wanted both of y'all.
And Elam, before you respond, give us three perspectives.
Hey, listen.
Hold on, give us three perspectives from a black man, from a father, and then from a husband. On the.
All right, so you're going to say that again: black man, father, and husband. Okay, so I'm going to start off with I'm going to go forward in answering the first portion with regard to a black man. And so I woke up that morning, because I don't watch the award shows like that. So I woke up that morning to about 5 texts and a couple of phone calls. I mean, this is at like 7:30, 8 o'clock that morning, that Monday morning, no lie. And can I be real with y'all?
Yes.
It actually made me feel kind of good, because it was like it was my friends, my close friends were calling me like, what do you think about this? You know, like, we know you're going to have something to say about it, right? And so and the initial conversation that I heard from a lot of females, and this is where I'm going to speak towards from a black man perspective, is that it was like, oh, you know what, defend your one. It was defend, and kind of like he was He-Man, like, okay, I'm going to defend my wife, and that's what more black men need to do, and they need to step up and things of that nature. And I was just like, okay, let me go back, and I looked at it, and then that with the understanding of some other pieces, I want to say that off the rip, I was offended by the response of some of my sisters, because they came at it at one angle that I do not, after looking at the research and peeling back the onion, that wasn't it. But the initial piece was, black men, this is what you should be doing. And I remember that the first conversation I had with somebody, because I have 2 sons, okay, 2 black men. And I said, well, we have to start looking at the fact that, are we going to start going around slapping people when somebody says something to our significant other? Because you know what? If I send my 27-year-old and I send my 21-year-old out into life thinking like that, one of them might not come back, because they might hear something. I don't care whether it's from somebody on the street that they don't even know, or whether it's even from one of their peoples. To whereas we have to look at this in a more emotionally intelligent situation. But it was kind of like the forward was protect the black woman. And I was just like, y'all need to all sit down with that. Miss me with the black woman moment. That's not what this was. So that's my initial portion from a black man perspective. I did not like that. And, I had to push back on people in that regard. I guess that also touched too from a fatherhood perspective. I was looking at it as, you know what, well, hey, this is not what, have I become upset? Yes. The one thing that my kids know is that you want to take daddy to 100, mess with Michelle, you know what I'm saying? So they know that he gonna go in like that, right? That I'll go in like that. But I also have to have some emotional intelligence enough to know that there's a time and a place for things, right? And so we might have had a backstage jack up moment. Yes, we probably would have, right? But in that moment, that wasn't the best time to do that. And listen, I don't even blow my horn a lot when I'm in my car. Okay, you got to be careful. It's open carry around here, right? So you have to be. It sounds good on one aspect. Now, when somebody's life is being threatened and things of that nature, yes, attack. Let's move in on that. But that wasn't that moment. So my sons, be careful when in even defending, because in that moment your life could be on the line. So just make sure that it's worth that. Do you really see those emergencies in that moment?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, make sure that the reaction is warranted.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we have the fatherhood, the black man, and what was the other one that you said, sir?
That's husband.
And what as a husband, I mean, I kind of really already touched on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's a blend that's there. Yeah, I'm down to defend all day, every day, but we have to understand that there was a peel back that exists here. I'm sure we'll steamroll into that, but there was a moment this was way deeper than defense.
Yes, I agree.
All right, Kandra, let's have you speak a little bit, and you may have a different perspective, from a woman's point of view, from a psychologist and a therapist point of view. What were your thoughts? Because those are 2 different hats that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think originally when I first saw it, I was like, oh yeah, he's standing up for his woman, and that's what he's supposed to be doing. But when I sat with it a little, Elam was saying, it's kind of opened up this Pandora's box that it gives people the permission, or a male the permission to react with violence when someone says something to their wife, or their wife feels like somebody says something that they don't agree with. But that is not the best way to respond in these situations. Like you said, you can't even honk your horn or maybe flip someone off on the road if they cut you off without fearing for your life. They're killing people over little. Put my partner in a position to where he has to risk his life because of what somebody said that holds no value to who I am or who we are. As far as from a therapist point of view, I feel like it's deeper than what is talked about surface level. I think it's deep rooted in just hurt that Will Smith has been possibly experiencing,
Yes.
and like he has spoken before on the Red Table Talk, is how he has always felt that he needed to project this success that his family and he has made, with little regards to those that are around him and what they really want, what his wife really wanted, and what his kids really wanted. And because his image of success and being a dominant figure has been taken just based off of the relationship and situations that have been in the media, he used this moment to prove that he is who he wants them to see him as, which is dominant, or that he can protect his wife, and that his wife is, or prove to his wife too, that he's capable of being that dominant figure in their relationship, rather than what has been perceived in society in the recent year or so.
Let me ask you this in a follow-up conversation. You've given your individual perspectives, personal perspectives on this, but Will Smith is box office. He may not have played in as many films, maybe as a Denzel or a Samuel L. Jackson or some of his predecessors, so to speak. But when it comes to film and Hollywood, he's considered A-list.
Yes.
And when he is in a film, people are going to show just because it is him. Question. By default, celebrities have a tendency to be, whether they're asked to or not, considered role models. Mm-hmm. And now we talk about the influence that person has on young people, young boys, and young girls in the things that they do. Maybe not fair, but when you are in a position where your face, your voice, your content, your profession is on the world stage, you're unfortunately or fortunately thrust into a position where you're a role model. Talk about that perspective and the implications. Now that all the emotions have kind of toned down and we've had a chance to think about it, what are your reflections on that? And maybe that's not just Will, but Chris as well. We'll start off. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So here's my thing. I want to look at this, and I want to take this from a principle perspective, right? And I want to look at this in the space of, one of the things that Ms. Jones just said right there earlier, and when she said, you talked about opening Pandora's box. And here's my thing. That's exactly that's the Pandora's box moment. I wouldn't even call it Pandora's box because that's more of a negative connotation when people start talking like that. But I'm going to take the same concept and say that the Pandora's box that has existed, that is actually where the positive piece can come from here, is that there's a suppression that has existed amongst us as men, period, in the culture from a relationship perspective. We, on average, are looked upon in a manner as if we don't matter. Okay, let me start there. Yeah. There was a post that came up earlier last week that somebody put up, and it was a young lady talking, and she said, you know what, there's one thing that I can't stand, a phrase that's used is happy wife, happy life. And she said, because the reason why I don't like that is because it begins to bring a connotation as if the man does not matter. And so let's look at that. When we're opening Pandora's box, we have a moment that we have to state, even during Valentine's Day. There was some stuff, there's some things that I was saying I think I talked to you guys about that a little bit as well. So why don't men seem like we matter during Valentine's Day? You look up there and you see whether it's Pandora Charms or whether it's that new commercial, and they just had like couples, a man doing. And so we're supposed to give the hearts and do the flowers. And okay, if it's a day of love, hello. So is the end result you give me, I do for you, and then you give me the sex I was already getting? Like, where do I matter in this situation, right? So if we want to look at this space and we notice,
You don't.
What did you say, Jimmy?
I said the dads don't. The husbands don't matter. So you're right.
No, and we don't matter, right? Okay, wait. Let's move forward. Mother's Day is around the corner. Yeah. Mother's Day after Christmas and the holidays and the Thanksgiving. Mother's Day is the third most celebrated holiday, right? Father's Day is number 11. We're after Halloween, people. We're after Halloween. Call me a liar and go Google this. Go Google this right now. Call me a liar and go Google this. Okay, we're after Valentine's Day does like 20-something million. Christmas does. Billion. Christmas does like 50-something billion. Father's Day is like 9 billion. You know what I'm saying? Like it's half of Mother's Day. And so even if you watch the commercials after Mother's Day, looking towards June, you won't see that many. And so we have this culture that exists out here of men that we don't matter. Then we get into these marriages and we start walking down the happy wife, happy life moment. And we're not really expressing ourselves because we were taught not to express ourselves. And then we met you. And now we love you, and now we don't even understand why we love you because we were never taught any type of emotional dexterity to speak when I'm upset. Oh, well, I was normally taught to not speak when I'm upset. So now you want me to speak but now you want to talk, but I was taught not to talk, and women do 20,000 words a day, and men do 5,000 words a day. So we have a culture that exists out here, and then you have the moment where you have the little kid in the sandbox. This is what this really was. And so you know what? I'm tired of being bullied. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this outward expression because the aggression, the testosterone that we do have in us does make us aggressive to a certain level. And yes, we have to learn to understand that. But we have to look at this moment as this was way bigger than Chris. It was way bigger than everybody that was in the room. This was a man defending emotional thoughts that he had, and it came out and blew up in a moment. It was wrong. It shouldn't have happened in that aspect. Was the devil coming for him in that moment? Yes. He knew exactly what but that little tick, 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 that's been going for decades in that man's life, in my opinion. I am not a clinical psychiatrist. I'm speaking from my space, from a black man's emotional perspective. And what I experience when I speak with my men clients is that they do not know how to express themselves emotionally. And a lot of times it comes out in an aggressive manner.
All right. Okay, Kandra, we have psychologists on the line today.
Now, slightly disagree with you a little bit. I was going to say he was not emotional until he looked at his wife. Then he had to figure out that this was something that bothered her, so now it had to bother him. So we know who wears the pants in that family. He is emotionally sick. He has father issues. He's determined not to be his father, so he thinks by being the kind of husband that does let his wife do whatever she wants is what he's supposed to do, and not get upset, not raise his anger, not stand up for himself. Because if he did, that'd be more like what his father was to his mother rather than what he wants to be.
But should we get some emotional grace for him in that area as well? Because at the end of the day, I don't care whether it's to your question, Tommy. I don't care whether it's Charles Barkley from back in the day, or I don't care. Let's go to the baseline of mother and father, right? Let's look at the fact that on average inside of our culture, we have not had, I had amazing parents, right? They're still together 50 years in June, right? But guess what? There was a gap that I identified to whereas the how to operate inside of a marriage, that's what I didn't know. I just knew that they were married. I just knew that you trust God and love. I don't know how you had that relationship with God. I don't know how you broke down love language and broke that down. And you didn't even know about love language because that was like your baby boomers. Okay, so there was no breakdown. So how do I do this? How do I walk through this space is what I did not understand. And guess what? There's an entire culture. I don't care whether you're black or white that has existed inside of that. But inside of our culture has been even higher. So I'm going to give him some emotional grace. because when the distress that exists inside of that is what we as men deal with. Of course, we've walked down maybe a closer path in that area to have some more emotional intelligence, but on average we have more Will Smiths walking around than we do of anybody else, and it's just waiting for somebody to click that button and then they're gonna snap.
All right, Kandra, now we are going to let you unpack this a little bit, because this is a little bit more of your space when you get into the deeper side of what both Elam and Jimmy have been talking to. So kind of take some points from what they were both saying and then add where you'd like.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes. Like I mentioned, I watched the Red Table Talk, and one of the things that they discussed was that like I mentioned earlier, Will Smith has been functioning, whether it's personally in his marriage or within his family, in a manner that is to prove that he is successful. And so whether that's successful in his career, or he has a successful family or a successful relationship. And because he was doing that, he wasn't looking to the needs of those that were present. I think Will Smith threw a big party for Jada for her 40th birthday, and Jada was upset about it because she was like, none of this is nothing I wanted. This is everything you wanted. And he used that as an ego moment to prove or to show what he's capable of doing for his family and for those that he loves. And he said from that moment on, he promised to Jada, and I'm looking at my notes, that whatever she needs, she can count on me to provide it. From that moment on, that's what he pledged to her. And so, like Jimmy was saying, originally when Chris Rock was making that joke, Will Smith was laughing. And then when he looked over to Jada and seen that she was upset, it changed that, and he had to show up in that moment. And so he decided to show up in that moment with going on stage and slapping Chris Rock, because he was put in the position to honor what he had promised to do for Jada, and that is to provide for her in whatever need she wanted. And in that moment, based on the look, he felt that he needed to protect her, and he felt that that was the only way to do it. Although his intentions were, I guess, valid, I just think it was the wrong place at the wrong time. And again, I think it's just rooted in hurt. And like Elam was saying, just throughout his life trying to be this person that he really isn't, and not given the space to show his true self, he put him in a position where the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's what he felt like he needed to do in that moment. And here we are.
But after
So let me ask you this.
All the time, after he did it, his wife said that she didn't agree with it. Okay, yeah. Right or wrong, you guys need to stand together. If your husband tries to stand up for you, don't throw him under the bus and say, I disagree with what he did. This is a woman that's constantly bringing his image.
Why not throw him under the bus, though? Why not?
Because she's doing
being herself.
The whole marriage. So if you're not going to be with me, I could do bad by myself. He needs to just cut it loose. Because as obviously, she doesn't want to be with him. If Tupac was your first love, then go jump in the grave with him then.
So after this happens, and then we're going to transition to the broader conversation, Denzel goes to him. Tyler goes to him. I think there was a third person, but those are the two black men that went to console Will Smith. And I thought it interesting. And I believe at least one of them also talked to Chris. I believe it may have been, I'm not exactly sure if Tyler did. And I thought there was a quite interesting look, so to speak. And so we have these moments, whether it's something like this, or maybe it's that, you may not have remembered this, the OJ moment, or a lot of, when things like this happen, we get up the next day, or if we saw it, we kind of cringe. It's like, oh Lord, here we go. Why? Because we look, okay, we're going to work and now we're going to deal with this. Or we're going to school, now we got to deal with this. Or we're going to be around other counterparts, not in our community, and have to have these conversations. And I think it's interesting that we feel some level of responsibility, maybe not personal responsibility, but we have these conversations about setting us back 50 years and all these kind of things. And I don't know that other communities, maybe they do, if they have those types of conversations. Let's talk about why things like this impact us emotionally one way or another, and what somebody else does somehow affects the race, the set us back conversation. Elam, what say you?
So let's keep this. I'm going to give two examples. I have I been in the grocery store, and have I been in the at the gas station, and I see a young man walk in, and his pants are literally
Down below his butt.
two
Yeah.
inch below his the break of his knee, just where the break is, right? So I see your entire butt and your hands, right? And then in that line is Karen. I now in that moment, why did all four of us feel the same thing? Okay, and so let me tell you one of the reasons why that we do feel it, and this is the reason why I want to add a level of encouragement on this. Martin Luther King, I believe, said this best: an injustice somewhere, or like is like an injustice everywhere, right? And that trickles into, here's the thing: if I am my brother's keeper, right, then I am my brother's keeper, and at the end of the day, we are all connected. Let's just really look at this: black, white, I don't care, right? And then you have the subculture that exists inside of that, right? Whereas, whether you're Asian or whether you're, Jewish or whether you're black, right? There we have there's a subculture that exists there, right? And so it is okay to be like, hey, they already think this, so can we? Can you help us out with that? You know what I'm saying? Because stereotypes are real. We can say, oh, it's not right, and we live in America, Jack. Okay, and in America, Jack, these stereotypes really do guide people in their thought process. So if they think you're like that, then they're gonna think I'm like that, and it's like, come on, brother, come on, sister. That's why when people start saying, you should be able to do what you want to do, and it doesn't matter what I wear, and no, you're with me. You just don't know it. Okay, and so we're in the same community, and so we could. You want to put yourself inside of a box, or you want to come outside. In America, Jack, all right, we have a culture, okay? And here's my thing: you can operate way outside of that if you want to, and go ahead and do your thing, right? But at the end of the day, like if you're doing an injustice to what I feel like is inside of our community, that's the reason why that I feel some type of way. So when the slap happened, the addendum to that was the level of aggression. You have the first night where you have a black man that is the producer, and and we're rocking and rolling, and then you're man of the year. So you're a black man and you're man of the year. So we're just like, yes, we're going. And no, that's not what we wanted to see. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reason why that I feel like that I think that it's okay, because we are really all connected. And I will check Tommy. I will check Jimmy. I will check Miss Jones, because at the end of the day, if I know that you're inside of this space, I'm going to pull you to the side. And that's why I love the Denzel moment. I do love the Tyler moment, because those are necessary. That probably wasn't shown enough. But, that level of counsel moment, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
What about you, Kandra? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it brings me to a question. I do intakes with a certain question in the assessment. It asks, do you question to little or young white kids, or their parents are sitting there, everyone's looking confused, like, what culture? Like, do you mean, do I feel a part of my culture? But when I ask this to like a black child, a Hispanic child, or whatever it may be, they're like, oh, what is it like to be black? What is it like to be Hispanic? They're able to connect to that question easier than that of one of the white children. And I think that's because when a white person or a Caucasian, or whatever term you want to use, thinks about their culture, they can touch on it. They can say, yeah, my family has Scottish roots, English roots, Irish roots, whatever it may be. So because of that, when they look at the next white person as their brother, because they know that they're from a different part, or they they don't have that connection with them as if they were from Europe or Scotland or whatever it may be. But when we see a Black person, we see another Black person. That's my brother. That's my sister. We don't know anything else about who we are. So we are going to be all together where we are right now. We can relate to each other. So we built our own culture. And because of that, that's why we look to each other. What you do is a representation of me, and what I do is a representation of you. And I think that could be one of the reasons why we have this idea that if one person messes up, we all mess up, because we're in this together, rather the others or white people don't have that same belief.
That's a good point. But this is another thing that some people might be saying. Well, who are you to define what my culture or what my norm should be? Because even within what I'll call Black America, there are segments within Black America, and they don't all get along. They don't all think the same way. They don't all agree. And I'm talking about Black America, not just African Americans, but Caribbean Americans, Native Africans, recent immigrants, and things of that's there. And then someone might say, well, who are you to tell me or define what my culture is? Maybe it is that kid with the pants right above their kneecaps, maybe. And he's like, well, hey, this is my culture and I'm Black. And who are you to say that it's wrong? Who is it? Broad question that defines that. And I think that there are a couple of different levels to defining that, because I think in one way, mass media that is controlled by a certain group of people. If I think back to when I was younger, if I think of Good Times, if I think of the Cosby Show, if I think of the Jeffersons, and someone is responsible for shaping that image, so to speak. But that was in the 20th century. Now we're in the 21st century. Everybody has most everybody has a phone where they can go through social media. The image making has been democratized. And so it's not just the CBSs or the NBCs anymore that are shaping that image, that are influencing behaviors. Now you have individuals, they call them influencers, and that's kind of what they do. And so I think this is an interesting conversation, because we're not just talking about the celebrities, the Will Smiths, the Denzels, if I go back in the day, the Sidney Poitiers, that are doing this shaping. What are your thoughts on who and how the image of Black America is being shaped, and how is that changing, evolving? Because of course now we got to infuse, it was R&B back in the 20th century, but now it's rap in the 21st century. They are the #1 musical genre globally, have had a huge impact on practically everything that you see. And it's not just Black America, but it's white America as well. Elam, thoughts? I know that's a lot. I apologize.
I'm gonna answer that in a manner like this. Number one, I am not the industry guy from a music perspective. I'm a jazz, R&B, rap, hip hop. I need trap every now and then as well. You know what I'm saying? Like I need it when and so the content, I'm going to look at this. I might go in a different direction on this, but I'm going to say this. There's a redefinition of cultures in multiple different areas, right? There's a redefining that has happened in the culture of, in the music area. There's a redefining that is happening in corporate America area, right? You have now we all know that corporate America is not climb the corporate ladder, right? And then we're just going to be like CEO, like like what we were all taught back in the day. We now realize that was a lie, right? And so let's go over here to relationship, right? That's been completely redefined, right? And so you have individuals asking some of the same questions that you're saying earlier. Who say that I don't, if I want to love this person, or I want to love this, or I want to do this, whatever case it be. You have a definition that exists there. But here's my thing. If I had to look at it from overall, and people just say, well, why you judge this music, or why you judge the way this person does this, whatever case it be, and then they say, the Bible says don't judge. Y'all need to stop bringing up certain topics that are not like there's certain statements that we need to get rid of, right? People like, don't judge. Why? Why can't I judge?
Yeah,
The Bible does not tell me to not judge. Okay? Church folk, okay? It don't, and even if you don't know it, it doesn't say, it says, judge not, lest ye be judged. So it's basically saying, I'm going to judge you on the merit that I'm judging myself. So once you start judging and we start looking in certain areas, right, I'm allowing you to judge me just like I'm going to judge you. Here's the thing. Who here is a parent? Raise your hand if you're a parent. Okay? Everybody, parent? Okay? Y'all not parents? None of y'all parents?
I am.
I don't parent? Okay. All right. Did you judge your kid's friend?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so why doesn't anybody say to you, don't judge your kids' friends? Why don't they say that? So you can only judge your kids' friends? You can't judge I can't, if I'm cool with you and you hang with the wrong person, I can't judge that moment and say, my expectation is not what you're doing. So therefore I'm saying I don't want to be with you. So when we look at the overall piece of, I think that what individuals try to do is try to reduce accountability by saying, that's why I won't have you around me. That's why I won't embrace your ideals. You're not going to force it on me. Okay. And I'm actually allowed to judge you. And so we don't have that open conversation because it's kind of like, people want to tiptoe around it. I judge, and I hope you do too, because guess what? You do anyway. You just hide it. I'm just saying it out loud. So you know what? Whether it's music or whether it's any other type of culture, listen, we have to understand that anything, and let me stop here. Anything that has any type of progress and success, it has a structure to it. Name one thing that is successful right now that does not have a structure to it. True. What organization do you know that's successful? It doesn't have a structure. It doesn't have ideologies. It doesn't have a mission. It doesn't have, they're going over here. Chick-fil-A does not do Sundays.
That's right.
They're judging by saying, y'all can do it, but we're not. We're going to go this way, right? We're going to set an expectation and we're going to go in a certain direction. So I think that, it doesn't matter what topic that it is. We need to start opening up our mouths and saying it is okay to judge. And when you do that, you're opening up yourself to be judged as well. And then I'll say, yes, it's okay to judge me, because you're judging. If you're doing it from a positive perspective, Jimmy, it's for my betterment. It's not that now if you just want to tear me down and stuff like that, miss me with that. But if you just say, if I say, Tommy, you got a booger in your nose, I just judged your nose. Okay, I want you to walk around here looking better than having that booger in your nose. You know what I'm saying? And I'm being candid, but that's just that we could just blanket that across the board.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Kandra, we're going to you next. And one of the things that I find very interesting, two side notes, you talked about being jazz. Of course, we know who created jazz, early part of the 20th century. We talk about Bobby Belton. We talk about Louis Armstrong. Now we're at the beginning of the 21st. It was the number one musical genre for practically half a century. And then we go into the 21st century. Now it's rap. Different conversation, different day. Kandra, we talk about a lot of this, and we're going to narrow it down a little bit into the role modeling. We talked a little bit earlier about the fairness or lack thereof in the role modeling of celebrities, of famous people, whether they be entertainers, whomever they happen to be. And then, Elam, you brought up a little bit earlier about the parent structure, because it does start at home.
It should
and I know this is a interesting evolution, and I understand it is an interesting struggle that you have in the household in terms of influencing and building principled behaviors. But it does start at home. It does start with the families. But we would be less than naive if we did not understand, and especially now, since even 4- and 5-year-olds have this type of stuff here, that the church parenting is getting outplaced at a more rapid pace probably every year. Yes, you deal with this every day directly. What are your thoughts on the role modeling? And we're talking about our communities in particular.
Yeah, I think to role model, I think what we mentioned before is that media, whether it's Denzel Washington, LeBron James, Cardi B, whatever it is, they're idolizing them. But like you said, it starts at home. And the reason why it would make more sense for a child to idolize someone at home rather than someone who is a celebrity or who is famous, because they can relate to those that are at their home, whether it's their parents, whether it's a community member, someone like that. They have similar experiences. And so seeing them work through whatever it is that is experienced amongst their community provides them with an understanding of what is needed for them to be successful and why they idolize this particular person. Rather idolizing a celebrity, all they're going to present to you 9 times out of 10 is all the good moments, the successful aspect, and them showing what's going good, but you don't see what they went through to get to that.
Right.
So, and you also don't see what's going on behind closed doors, what's going on behind their homes. You may be idolizing this particular person, and they go home at night and fighting and arguing with their partner and putting their hands on their children. But because you don't see that, you only see, they're this happy character in this TV show, and they're always dressed a certain way, and it seems like they're on the latest styles. You're idolizing them for that. But on the same hand, you have someone in your community that's giving back to those in their community, that has a successful job, and you see them, you see the ins and outs, you socialize with those that are in their family, and you have a better representation of what you are capable of doing and what you can experience, do amongst the experiences that you have in your community, rather than you don't know what these people are doing that you see on TV.
Sure.
And so I think that, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's why I be on mute, because I be like ready to jump in and whatnot. So I'm gonna go back on mute. Go ahead and finish. I'm sorry, Michelle.
No, you good. I was finishing. You good.
Because when you were talking, there's a particular celebrity, and I cannot say the name. But there's very few people on this whole planet that don't know this person. And so when they were dating another individual, and things didn't work out, and he happened to step out and cheat, or whatever case it be, people were like, "Oh my God, like how could he cheat on her? She's like amazing." And so I know people who knew the backstory, because they were her people's, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were just like, people didn't know the amount of times of the depressions and then this and that she was walking through, and he was having some difficulty dealing with that. And so they didn't have like the guidance that existed inside of that. So he went off and did his thing. But at the same time, there was a complete communication breakdown in the relationship. People only saw the end result of him having to step out. They had no idea of the dark area she was walking in, that she solely was walking in by herself with her life, and it bled into their relationship. Mm-hmm. People only saw what eventually came on TV. So at the end of the day, these are all people.
Right.
They're all people, right? And so they're going to have the same challenges that the rest of us go through. It's just blasted out there. But you don't know a person who hasn't had a challenge in their marriage. You don't know that person. 100% of the people that you know have challenges in their marriage. You just don't know it. It sounds good when they way down the road. It's like, we just loved each other. We just stayed together. Them jokers had challenges.
Well, I think Ms. Jones.
Okay, so I think that the offer forward from here is that a wise man remains in counsel.
Well, Ms. Jones made a very good point. What
were you saying?
I said Ms. Jones made a very good point that the parents should be the role models in kids' lives. It's okay to remind your children of how hard some basketball player or some celebrity worked to get to where they are, and for you to use that same type of energy for your success, educationally or whatever you're pursuing. But don't idolize them for anything more than that, because now you're putting too much on them. Because like Mr. King said, they have problems just like everyone else. So don't think because they're a celebrity and they're rich or they're famous that they don't have problems. They do.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that they probably have much bigger problems.
But that's the thing, is that because it's media, whatever it is, you're not seeing the struggle. And
Right.
so kids nowadays think, oh, they're getting fast money or it's going to come easy, and that they don't have to go through a process. There's not a structure. There's not a things you need to follow in order to get there. They think it's just, I'm going to snap my finger, I'm going to write a song, and I'm going to be the next top rapper that's ever stepped foot in whatever it may be. They don't know, well, yeah, this person did this and this person used to sleep in their car. They didn't see that. And so they think it's supposed to come fast. And I think that's the issue. That's the difference between having a role model that's in your community, someone you see, versus a role model that's in the media. They make it seem as if it comes easy and that they don't know the backstory of how they got there unless they share it. But 9 times out of 10, we just thought it just came out.
I would say that in a lot of cases, parents have a tendency to be godlike in the eyes of their children with their little. However, when they get to be teenagers and they get this additional exposure in mass media, and maybe it starts even earlier now, parents aren't as cool as the folks that they see on the television or the movies and or the internet. So the question then becomes, what do parents do now? I mean, I know it was probably a challenge how difficult it is for parents to continue to focus on raising principled children, whatever that looks like. And these kids have access to things, God forbid, I couldn't even imagine when I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. What are your recommendations for parents now in order to keep them in that space so they can ensure that they're staying on the right track? Kandra, we'll start with you and then Elam, because I mean, that's a tough one, especially now, because the social media, internet is everything. It's just ubiquitous.
Yeah, I think for a parent's role is they got to basically, like you said, it starts at home. They have to combat what is shown or the negative things that is, whether it's in media that's being said. They have to be put in a position to combat that. So if I'm sitting here watching TV and something pops up, for instance, the slap with Will Smith, and I have my young child or my teenager here next to me, I need to be able to have a conversation with them regarding that. Okay, what do you think about what happened here? What do you think should have been different? What do you think this, and that? And opening up the door to have those conversations. So if they do encounter something outside the home, they feel comfortable enough to come home and have a conversation about it and talk to their parents. And I think that's how you can combat or help navigate these situations.
Elam, what are your thoughts? Parenting.
I want to say that the short answer, without going for the next 15, 30 minutes, is that, the first thing in your level of parenting is having an understanding of your direction of where you really want to go through in your life, and having some emotional intelligence and awareness of yourself for exactly what your thoughts are. I am not a blue. I am not a red, right? I know that Elam's an independent, I'll just say, right? So my kids understand my thought processes in certain things, right? They understand what my direction is, right? And so that's step first and foremost of having a definiteness of purpose of where I want to think, and knowing that first, just for me, bump everybody else, right? Your
values.
Yeah, exactly. What your values are. And what I love about the next thing that you said, Ms. and I made sure I made a point of it, is that, it's what I gather from what you're saying, and I totally echo that, is the direction that you're going in, right? Just the listening. That is not something that we grew up with. Xers and Ys. Okay, hold on. I don't know if it's going to make the thumping sound. Okay. Dear baby boomers, X and Y. We weren't raised like this, and we all know it. Stop saying it. When I was coming up, who cares? Because when you were coming up, there were a lot of things that were in there that mommy and daddy did wrong, just in case if you didn't know. Because remember, now you're a parent and you do wrong. So you think they didn't? They did. They did a lot of wrong. You just don't know about it. But knowing that they were human, they did. Now, you weren't told, that you weren't listened to. We know that. I wasn't listened to either. Do as I say, do, not as I do. Don't talk to me about that anymore. Okay. We have to actually listen now. Okay. And then I know you want Lil Johnny to be this type of career, but why don't you listen to Lil Johnny and see which direction he wants to go? Yeah. That's going to make you a better parent, because you're going to be able to tap into, yes, you want them to be an attorney, but maybe they just want to make doorknobs. and they're going to be the best doorknob maker that they can be in the world, and then they're going to get a Home Depot contract. You don't see the Home Depot contract. You just see that they just want to make doorknobs. Oh, how can you be successful with that in life, right? So whether it's blue collar or white collar or entrepreneurship, hey, start listening to your children.
Yeah.
Listen to them. You want to be listened to too. Just nobody ever asked you. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you bleed out later on in life and not expressing the way that you feel. Hence the original conversation that we started off with today. It all comes back together to whereas you weren't listened to back then, and nor were you told that you should have been listened to. And now later on in life, you just blow your stack. So that's a piece right there that we can start just listening. And I love how you said that, Ms. Jones.
Yeah, it's having the conversations.
So I'm hearing a couple of things. Obviously, as parents, you have to set a bar, and you have to set the right bar. And especially in our community,
Yes.
you have to set a very high bar, because as many of us know, and our parents and grandparents probably told them, you have to work twice as hard, to get the same thing, and three times as hard to get ahead. And so setting the bar for the next generation, you said a mouthful in terms of listening to your children, because it is not, you do it because I said to do it. This ain't that generation. When we talk about, I don't know, millennials or Gen Z, this particularly isn't that generation. And so the question then becomes, where do you want them going in life? Setting the bar, listening to your children. Are there other things that parents need to put in their playbook in terms of role modeling and shaping the direction for their children's?
Let me take a stab at this one, Tom.
Man, we can. I mean, that's anybody got it 2 hours?
Jimmy, go ahead. We have to do the Cliff Note version.
Anybody got 2 hours? You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, Tom, I think all of us need.
We got about 7 minutes right now.
Yeah, all of us need to be aware of how much time we spend idolizing celebrities. Most black people don't know anything about black history except civil rights and slavery. In February. But we know everything about Jay-Z and Beyonce, what they eat, what toilet tissue they use, how many shoes they have, all these celebrities that we keep up with. All that time is wasted when you could be doing something much more productive, feeding your brain with much more valuable information than Queen Bee or Cardi B or whatever. I mean, I would like our guests to kind of maybe answer or talk to how much time and focus we have, not just as the children, but the adults, on following these celebrities. Seems like we have serious delay and jitter going on.
Let me say this, okay? I don't understand it, okay? Because here's the thing: there's some people that we followed, huh?
Go ahead, Elam. Keep going.
There is just the idolization that we do in this space is so annoying, right? And so I get it, if you want to follow people for style and stuff like that or whatever, but things that are arts, things that actually add to your life. I'm not even going to say style. We won't just say that it has to just be for clothing or whatever. We're just saying that they're adding something positive to your life. And we have to understand that we are a combination of our mind and our will and our emotion and our imagination and our intellect. And a lot of that stems from the things that we look at, right? If you hang around 4 broke people, you're going to be the 5th, right? If you hang around drama and follow drama, you're going to have drama too. Don't tell me that you like it just because you like it. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. If you're following drama after drama, there's 9 times out of 10, there's some drama in your life too. You know what I'm saying? I get it, decompressed and all that. I get it. But it's all about the level of consumption that we're doing. And so we just have to be cautious of what we're consuming, right? We got some people that just say, hey, I got to look at the news because I got to know what's going on or whatever, right? Like, okay, well, most people from a leadership perspective, when you're forging forward and doing something and trying to, maximize your greatness, they're going to tell you to turn the news off. So, we have to be cognizant of the things that, whether it's social media or the things that we're watching and looking at, because that can trickle into our lives as well.
Kandra, any thoughts?
No, I agree with what he said.
Let me add something to this when we were talking about the things, and especially from a parenting point of view, setting the bar, absolutely essential. Listening to your children, absolutely essential. But as you were talking, Elam, I just thought about things. And we talk about social media and we consider the amount of time that young people, very, very young people for that matter, spend in front of a screen, whether that is a television screen, whether that is a laptop, whether that is a phone. Let me ask you this, not you two individuals, but to my listeners live and who listening to this later. If you were to take inventory of the amount of time that you spend with your children, TIME, and or to your point, Kandra, TALKING, to my mother, and who is now my stepfather, used to talk in front of their kids. They would spell things out. And it was funny. I never quite understood it, but now that I've gotten older, I understand. But when you consider the amount of time and the amount of conversations that you're having with them, if you were to take inventory of that compared to what they're listening to on television, on their phones, on the screen, big or small, what would that ratio look like? And that might answer some of these questions in terms of the what and why our children are going in the direction that they are going with. Because time, not MONEY, is what I've told is the most important thing to a child. I mean, a lot of parents will compensate for things, for money, but it's the time that is most important, in addition to talking to and listening to your children as well. What are your thoughts, Elam, Kandra? And we have about, we're almost at the top of the hour.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a 30-second version on this. This is an area that I've had to grow in. I want to say that, if you ask my kids or, if you ask my kids, they'll be like, he's a great dad, but, or a good, I think I was an okay dad. For the majority of the years of my children, I did not have the emotional dexterity that I have today. I didn't have the direction. I didn't have the spirituality. I was doing it like outside looking in. I was doing pretty good, but the real potential of probably what I could have been and the time that I could have spent, there was a lot more that I could have done. I am excited and happy with, my adult children and how they're progressing forward in life. You always want to wring one by the neck every now and then because you're doing something I wouldn't want you to do, but I also have grown into the understanding and begin to listen to them more. The dad that I am today was not the dad in 2013, 2015. And I admit that. I say that. And my dad didn't tell me that. And that's the one thing that, I love him to life. But, for him to say, hey, I jacked up here, I didn't hear. But I tell my sons, hey, I could have done this better. And I could have spent more time. And so I was running. And mama I'm kind of like, okay, you got this, because I'm over here running. And all of a sudden now they're 28 and 27 and 21. And I still have, a few little teenager people, but I try to spend more time with them. But I'm not good in that area as well sometimes. So that's a growth. And I would say that time does matter. Even let me just say this and I'll go. Men, I want you to understand that even from a brain perspective, you being in the presence of your children reduces the hormone cortisol. Cortisol increases the level of worry in your brain, everybody. So when women are fathers, you're actually increasing the worry and the anxiety in your child. It might pop out with a certain drug that they might need later on, and you might think it's okay because another 15 million children that are in this area as well. But at the end of the day, just that piece alone, if I could just say from black man to fathers, you being in the presence of your children reduces their anxiety by nature. By nature.
Kandra, that resonate with you, Kandra? That
yeah, it is. I agree with that. I was 12, and then from there I moved in with my father. And when my father would leave the home, I was anxious. I felt anxious. I was in a different room doing his own thing. Just to know he was there, it gave me comfort. It made me feel safe, and I felt protected, even though we've never talked. We never had, or in those moments, if we didn't talk, if we didn't have a conversation, just knowing he was there gave me that comfort. And when he was away, it was high anxiety. So I fully understand what Elam was saying from a personal experience. And I tell people all the time, sometimes you don't need to have those conversations. Although it's important, sometimes you don't need to talk. The space doesn't always have to be full, but just the fact that your presence is there.
Right.
I could sit next to my fiance, and just having him in the room or sitting next to me, I'm perfectly fine with that. We don't have to talk. He could do his own thing, but to know he's there just gives me that comfort and that ease in my mind, rather than having all these thoughts because they're not present.
Jimmy, so, yeah. We heard this in a recent podcast, and I cannot remember which one, but it's been within the last couple of weeks, and that is your presence being the most important thing. Setting a bar. I'm just synopsizing this for the parents out there. And we're talking about role modeling, the influence that it has on Black America, but when it comes right down to it, Black America is a community of people, and you break it down to states, cities, geographies, and you break that down to neighborhoods. You break that down to households, and those households are broken down to families. What makes and keeps us sane? What gives us the emotional and physical integrity to maximize our talents and skills and be people like the Elam Kings of the world and the Kandra Joneses of the world? As parents, setting the bar, listening to your children, which is active communication, time, T-I-M-E, communication, active conversation, and being present. Wow, powerful. Elam, when you're about to say something, and then I'm going to have you guys close with your closing remarks, and then we'll close this show for tonight.
I was on a podcast a couple of days ago with my man Kelly Bennett, and so he said something that Eckhart Tolle said, and I just have to repeat this for this moment. He said,
No, go ahead.
Okay. So he said, that Eckhart Tolle said, and I hope I say this correctly, he said, where you're at is where you are. And if you take a moment and think about that, because sometimes in our minds, we're like, okay, well, I know I could do, and I want to be, and you know that where you're at is where you time, where you at, where you are with your relationship, where you at where you is where you are with your finances. This is where you are.
You're supposed to.
And so embrace that, understand it. You can have the fortitude to move forward. Fantastic. You can be in counsel to move forward. Fantastic. You can have scriptures and books or whatever case it be that can get. Yes. But where you're at is where you are. And understand where that is. And in order for us to move forward, we have to understand what is our foundation? Where are we right now? And then work around rebuilding that as well. And so when we're having conversations like this evening, and I just want to thank you guys so much for just even being on the podcast tonight, and with you, Ms. Jones, as well. Thank you so much for just being able to be alongside you. But, we have to look at where we're at is where we are, and then build upon that. So you can follow me at elambking.com and on all social media. The areas at Elam B. King. All right.
And there was one of our guests who chatted in. They asked if, let me see here, can we get Kandra's contact information? And I don't know if that is specifically for just maybe consulting or talking with you about what you do, but can you provide that information? That is, I'm done. Can we get Kandra's contact information?
Yeah, so my email address is thegrip, THEGRIP 2020@gmail.com.
And also, Elam, how can folks get in contact with you if they need to? I know you already have it posted.
His contact information is
on all social media, Elam B. King, and also my website is elambking.com.
Okay, go finish what you were saying, Elam. I'm sorry.
Oh no, elambking.com.
Okay.
You can find me there as well.
All right, good deal. Closing remarks, and then we're out. Kandra, then Elam, then Jimmy.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, maybe the incident with Will Smith may have fortified or supported this perception that America has on Black individuals, Black Americans. But at the end of the day, we can't change what someone thinks about us. What's and instilling in the children, instilling in each other that we are fully capable and worthy to have and accomplish anything that it is that we set our minds to, our hearts to, and that we work towards. And at the end of the day, it starts at home, and it starts with self-love.
Oh man, that last comment from Ms. Jones, I want to say that self-love, the embodiment around that is just having an understanding of your own emotional intelligence. And so the incidents that occurred, it didn't have the fragrance or even the look of the emotional intelligence that's necessary to matriculate yourself through this life. So I just want to I think that it's a learning lesson to you in a manner of just saying that we have to increase the we have to be okay with having mentorship. We have to be okay with not being okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to speak to somebody and know that we can't use the same brain that got us in the situation to get us out. We have to use a different brain, which might be a different person. The root word of the word angel comes from the word angel, from people here on earth. You have angels that are around you, but because we're not opening our mouths to speak and express ourselves, we find ourselves moving inside of mental illness areas and areas that just might just make us explode. And so we can come out of this situation in a more positive manner. I see it as it was just kind of, it's an accent mark. And if you look around you, you'll see that there are a lot of Black men that are now so we're starting to speak just a little bit more. And so we need to continue to normalize that, and we won't have that type of on-stage situation in the future.
Jimmy, closing remarks.
For Black men, if you're going to be an influence to your children, you have to be in their lives.
Jimmy, can you hear us?
Yes. So, said for Black men.
Jimmy, you have any closing remarks?
Yes, can you not hear me?
If you can hear me.
Go ahead and move on. I'm good.
Okay, it looks like Jimmy may not be able to hear me. Do you have any closing remarks, Jimmy?
I heard you. Move on.
All right.
We can't hear him. That's the issue.
Oh, okay. We cannot hear him. All right. I would like to say thank you, everybody who listened in. Hopefully there is some content, and man, there's a lot more that we can talk about. I'm sorry, repeat that, Jimmy. Repeat if you can. Okay, I think he may have been breaking up again. Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, good deal. All right, good deal. I'd like to thank, again, everybody for joining us tonight, taking the time to listen to these great brains. Okay, taking the time to listen to these great brains that we have. And I'm going to take something away from what think about us per se. But, there's something that Malcolm X said a long time ago that I will bring to the forefront. We have to change the way that we think about ourselves if we are going to get a different outcome. Mm. And that is one of many brilliant things that great brain said when he was still living. God rest his soul. And I will now close out with a very brief prayer, given the time that we have, and then we will have our closing music. If everyone could bow your heads. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Jimmy. You can take us out.
Amen.
I might have to use that. I like that.
All right, Jimmy's going to close us out with our closing music.
I'll tell you, I'm totally feeling that. And when you do it in the future, I might or I might not give you any credit, but I'll say it for the other individuals today. I like that. I'm using that. That's such an Elam moment. I gotta do that one.
As the first time, the second time is